It is week 19 of the NHL season. We got a teenager making NHL history. Teams are shocking us by how good and bad they truly are. Guys are trying to take each other's heads off with their stick, and the trade deadline has set teams up for the final push for the playoffs. A lot has happened this week, so let's dive into the full recap of week 19 of the NHL season. Now, getting back into the motion of the ocean here is the Penguins versus Golden Knights. Hope you enjoyed the Olympics. We may never be going back because Sidney Crosby's out for at least a month, in which case that is no bueno for the Penguins as they push for the playoffs. However, they've looked pretty good coming off the break, spanking Vegas 5-0, who, by the way, are back to being the Vegas injured reserves. As before the deadline shocker, Mark Stone gets a nothing cross-check and seems to tweak something. Hope he's all right, but I'm sure he'll be just fine for game one of the playoffs. Next, another blowout from the Blackhawks, if you can believe it. Arvid Soderblom had himself a night. He shut out Utah, who are in the dog race for the wild card spot in the West. Sharks are also trying to do the same, staying in the mix, trying to squeak in. They're going up against the gold medal man himself and the American hero, and Connor Hellebuyck. And watch this. His ass is out for the count. Wide open net. Hellebuyck starts feeling lovely. Absolute robbery. Snagging this one out of the air. The Sharks peppered this guy until the dam finally broke. Michael Misa, 1-on-3 in 3-on-3 OT. He says, screw it, I'll do it myself, and beats Hellebuyck. At least one Canadian could do it as the Sharks get a huge win. Meanwhile, Minnesota fumbles a great opportunity to make up any ground on home ice against Dallas in round one. Got to take those gimme games against St. Louis if they want that. The Blues get 2 points they don't need because they're going to be selling all week here with the deadline coming up. So are the Flames, who get to experience the Mason McTavish shootout special. It takes 2 to 3 business days to come in, fakes backhand to get the tendy reaching like a fool, and then slips it 5-hole for a cheeky little reminder to close your damn legs. Ducks win and are starting to look like the favorites here to actually take the Pacific Division. But the most important game of Sunday was by far this one between the Panthers and the Islanders. These types of games in the Eastern race are playoff games right now as the Panthers are in do or die mode. Let's go to this while they're up 2-0, and Matthew Schaefer, the 18-year-old, does it himself. First, he doinks it off a couple sticks and legs, cuts the lead to 1 for his 19th of the season. That means he's got more goals than years lived on this earth as a D-man. And then later, with the game tied at 3s, he comes down Broadway, clean look, and rifles one. 4 goals in his last 2 games. Canada left him at home, and he becomes just the 4th rookie defenseman in NHL history to score 20 goals. That was an absolute dagger to the defending Cup champs too, as seconds away from this game going to OT and them getting a point, Anders Lee takes it to the house and buries. Islanders win while the Panthers' playoff hopes are on life support. They have now lost 6 of their last 8 games, and it is looking extremely unlikely that they will even get the chance to defend their back-to-back cups. They're 8 points back of the playoff line with 22 games remaining. Their chances have now dropped to just 5.8%. Let's move on to Monday, where we talk about a team who cannot fumble this down the stretch here, and that is the Red Wings. They've done it the past couple of years, but they finally put themselves in a good enough position this season to potentially get it done. They get Nashville and get a shorty for the game winner and call it a day. That's all great and dandy, but the bad news is they lose John Gibson with an upper body injury. That's no bueno. He's been one of the best tendies in the league since December 1st, and that could hurt Detroit down the stretch here. How about the circus back in New York, too? The Rangers' home game usually means that there is no goals and bitter disappointment. Good news, it wasn't the first part. There were goals, but bitter disappointment for the Rangers did continue. They were actually down 4-0 in this game and showed some balls coming all the way back, but Kirill Marchenko says enough is enough in OT, and he rifles one for the game winner, which is big for Columbus. Next up is Leafs versus Flyers. Philly is trying to get things back on the rails here after being in a playoff spot for the first half of the season and then letting the wheels fall off prior to the break. The Leafs, on the other hand, have single-handedly canceled the parade by being ass. Let's pour one out here for Anthony Stolarz, too, who got absolutely bullied in the shootout. First, by Matvei Michkov, who gets him sliding into the concession stand, and then Trevor Zegras, Mr. Automatic, makes Stolarz look like it's his first day at the office with that rip. Flyers win in a shootout to stay 4 points back of a spot, while Toronto is basically finished. There's also been no quieter wagon in the league league right now than the Carolina Hurricanes. Happens every year because they're just expected to be damn good. But Seattle comes in with a little heater of their own at home, taking down Carolina 2-1. Quick thoughts on Seattle here. They're now third in the Pacific. Not sure how many people had them making it into the dance because they just love being in the mushy middle. Watching them try to score goals is like nails on a chalkboard at times, but they're a structured team that does a solid job defending, and it's got them in a good spot. Meanwhile, the Canucks are just a new level of ass. They aren't just last in the league. They're last by 10 points. Dallas, on the other hand, is the total opposite. 8-game win streak. Mix these two together, you get a spanking. 6-1 Stars. Could have beat these guys hungover, and they probably did, as Dallas wins a franchise record 9 games in a row. However, they still remain behind the Colorado Avalanche for the division lead. The Central is a slaughterhouse. All the big boys showed up here tonight. Landeskog, Natchez, and McKinnon all had multi-point games against the Kings, who themselves are in very big trouble. It has been a weird few weeks for LA. They pick up Artemi Panarin right before the break for a pile of sticks. That was great. But then Kevin Fiala got badly hurt during the Olympics, so back to square one for them. And before this game, they fired their head coach, Jim Hiller. It is a mess all around for LA, and if they don't figure it out quick here, the season will be completely lost. Now, before we hop into Tuesday's games, today's video is sponsored by SeatGeek. SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app with over 28 million downloads. There's more than 70,000 listed events from sports, concerts to festivals and more. It's a World Cup year, and SeatGeek already has tickets available on the app. It's really simple to use. You browse seating on a scale of 1 to 10, look for the green, which indicates the best deals, and voila, you got yourself a great deal on some tickets. I use it all the time for Leaf games. I use it for other events as well, and you can do the same by using code HOCKEY2026 to get 10% off your next pair of tickets. Just hit the link in the description to download the app, and it'll automatically apply the code to your account so you're ready the next time you find a deal. So make sure you download the app to get a great deal. It's 100% worth it. And once again, big shout out to our pals at SeatGeek for sponsoring these weekly recaps. We start Tuesday with probably the two most disappointing teams this season. The Panthers and the Devils both are amongst the bottom 3 in the East, and it's truly looking like Florida is finished here. Jersey comes in and spanks them 5-1, and now they just have a 3% chance of making the playoffs. I think the gas tank has finally hit empty for them. Can't wait till they somehow find a way to get Gavin McKenna and the league decides to riot. Elsewhere, Pittsburgh is trying to get used to life without Sidney Crosby. They've been doing a good job so far, but they run into Jeremy Swayman. All the goals that were scored in this game happened in the first 6 minutes, and then the Bruins and Swayman just shut the door. 34 saves on 35 shots. Boston gets a big 2 points to stay in that last wildcard spot in the East. So then we move on to Buffalo, who is welcoming Vegas and the return of Jack Eichel. This has been a bitter relationship over the last few years, but they honor both him, Hanifin, and Tage Thompson for their Olympic gold. Sabres fans kept it classy, cheering during the ceremony, and then went right back to booing him as soon as the game started, in which the Sabres came out hot. They scored the first 3 goals of the game thanks to the formula that has been going for them all year long, which is offense from their defense. Owen Power got on the board, Rasmus Dahlin 2 assists, and the Sabres are able to hold off the late push of Vegas and are met with a standing O at KeyBank Arena for their efforts. Sabres fans can taste playoff hockey for the first time since the calculator was invented. What an effort and what a story so far. Another team in a very similar boat is Utah. They remind me of the Sabres of the West. Lots of good young talent trying to find their way into the playoffs for the first time, and it's this core that's doing the job for them in this game. Gunther, goal and assist. Clayton Keller chipped in with 2 apples of his own. Utah gets a big 2 points over Washington to build a little comfort in that last wildcard spot in the West. Caps are in trouble too, and it doesn't help that the Blue Jackets keep on winning it. You got guys putting a puck in their own net, and they're still finding ways to come away with the W. Late game winner from Charlie Coyle, who just throws another wrench into the Eastern Conference playoff race. With all these teams in the mix here, the trade deadline is going to be fun. That being said, we already got movement around the league. Chicago and Edmonton make a decent deal that sends defenseman Connor Murphy over to the Oilers in exchange for a pick. That means Connor Bedard steps in as the new assistant captain in Chicago. Looks good, plays good, gets 2 assists on the night, but ultimately falls victim to being on the Blackhawks. Scheifele gets the OT winner for the Jets. He himself had a night as well. 3 points for him and a toilet toilet bowl game is pretty good. I don't care what anyone says. The Stars continue to be the hottest team in the league, just taking these layups against Vancouver and tonight again against the Flames. Back-to-back 6-1 beatdowns, 10 wins in a row for them, and they're doing it all without the Moose Mikko Rantanen. But imagine winning 10 games in a row and still not being able to catch the Avalanche. January was an ugly month for Colorado standards, but they've cleaned that right up. McKinnon gets his 100th point on the season. That is his 4th straight 100-point season in his career. The dog is on a run for the ages, while Makar is out here dancing with the twinkle toes, activates the Shakira hips, and then he fires it in the back of the net as the Avs win 5-1. There's lots of discussion about who the best defenseman in the world is right now, and Quinn Hughes says, anything you can do, I can do better. He comes right down Main Street flying, backhand, forehand, tuck, 2-point night for him. Wild have a statement game against the Tampa Bay Lightning, winning big as well, 5-1. Next up were two teams of the future, and the future is now between the Habs and Sharks. Buckle up for this game. The Sharks take control with the Will Matt connection going early on. Celebrini to the Fresh Prince of San Jose himself. That is pretty, but then watch this from Macklin Celebrini. He decides to do it all himself, and this has got SeatGeek Goal of the Week written all over it. He chips it over to himself through two guys, and then he cheeks one. 5-hole from distance against Dobish for his 30th goal of the season. If the Sharks make the playoffs, I don't know how this kid doesn't win the MVP and Hart Trophy. That being said, they almost blow it in this game as Montreal comes back after being down 5-2 in the third. We got a barn burner here, but then the Sharks get some heroics from Kiefer Sherwood on the power play. That's his first as a Shark, and that would be the game winner. He was laying chirps all game too on Josh Anderson. What an ad he's been as the Sharks get a big 2 points. Finally, we have the Sens versus the Oilers. The talk around town is that the Oilers can't get a save and can't really defend right now. Luckily, they have the two biggest offensive cheat codes in the game. Let's go to this one, tied 2-2 in the second, and then the Sens score twice in 40 seconds, which means if the Oilers want to win, they once again got to score 5 or more. Groundhog Day for them. Fast forward to a minute left in the third, and who other than Shaq Hyman to tie this one up? Just put him in the crease and bank one in off his leg and call it a day. It's a tie game, and to OT, McDavid is about to break free. Brady Tkachuk sees that and goes, no way I'm catching this freak. He just full-on bear tackles him to stop him. 2 minutes for you can't do that. Get in the box, pal, and immediately the Oilers make him pay. A boosh bomb ends this game. Draisaitl was a monster in this one too. He got 5 points as he and the Oilers offense finds a way to get them 2 points to end Tuesday night. Moving on to Wednesday, it's time to bust out the waterworks as the Red Wings honor Showtime himself, Patrick Kane, for becoming the all-time American point leader. He's getting emotional. I'm getting emotional. That's my childhood right there, getting old. They got Vegas. Fun fact about Vegas is that they haven't beaten a team currently in a playoff position since November 20th. That is a stat that'll make you the certified Fugazis of the league if you're not careful. They almost blew this one too. Vegas had a 3-1 lead in the third. Detroit came back to tie it in force OT, whereas the Teenage Mutant Ninja Hurdle hitting the spin cycle on the peeper, and that is game. Let's keep an eye on Vegas here, though. I'm not sold at all on these guys that they're legitimate contenders, but we'll see what kind of shenanigans they get up to for the deadline. Next is the toilet bowl game of the night between the Devils and the Leafs. Throw this bad boy on if you hate yourself. This is the first time the Leafs stood a chance to win a game since the Olympic break. They almost do it with a late lead, but you gotta know something's for certain. It's death, taxes, and former Leafs coming back to absolutely teabag them. Downtown Connor Brown ties it up. It goes to a shootout where Jesper Bradatouille goes top bunk to end the game. And yeah, it's officially time to tank in Toronto. Throw up the for sale sign and hope you plummet bad enough that you don't give Boston your pick again. No one, however, is going to out-tank the Canucks. They already put up the for sale sign and got rid of Tyler Myers for a second and a fourth. Not a bad trade. I don't mind it. Everyone's pretty much rumored to be out of there anyways, so we'll see what comes up for the deadline. Carolina, though, is the lucky team to come in and take their 2 free points and move on. And let me know if you've ever seen anyone more pissed off that they got a Hattie than Nick Ehlers right here. Buddy is just fuming on the bench after scoring 3. Can't imagine what he's like when he doesn't score. You can add the St. Louis Blues to the teams teams that are also sellers as well. They were able to beat Seattle tonight, but they're rumored to be having big pieces going out too, like Robert Thomas, Jordan Binnington, and Colton Parayko. Those names could be juicy to teams like the Ducks and Islanders who are looking to add while going into the dance. But tonight, they're squaring off against one another, and Anaheim is starting to hit a groove here. Cutter Gauthier has been an unbelievable trade for the Ducks. He gets his 30th of the season, and the rookie Beckett Seneca has just stepped into the league with purpose. He's got 50 points on the season. Ducks lay a beatdown on the Island 5-1 to end Wednesday night. Now, Thursday is the eve of the trade deadline, and we got two sellers in our toilet bowl. Leafs versus Rangers, 13 seconds in. Matias Maccelli scores to take an early lead. Okay, is this finally the time Toronto pulls off a win here? No. Rangers score 4 in the third, spank the Leafs 6-2, and win their first regulation home game in 101 days. That's how bad these two teams are. Quite hilarious, if you ask me, but it's starting to feel like this Leafs team is ready to go on a full 18-wheeler off the cliff after the deadline. Moving on to Utah versus Philly, the Mammoth are doing all right lately. They added Mackenzie Weegar a few days prior, who I think is a great fit for their blue line. This roster has been knocking on the door to make it into the playoffs, but they haven't since the Irish exited Arizona and came to Utah. So this is a move that is a sign that they're going for it, and I honestly love it. They shut out Philly 3-0 to get a cushion in that last wildcard spot. Now, the biggest trade talk of the day actually surrounded Buffalo. For the first time in 15 years, they ain't selling. They made a trade for Blues D-man Colton Parayko and what would have been an unbelievable add to one of the best D-cores in the league already. But Parayko had to waive his no-trade clause, saw Buffalo and said, yeah, nah, I'm good. I'm not going. So no trade, but the Sabres don't give a shit because they're on a Terminator-like mission to make it into the dance. And how about this Ryan McLeod shorty? Forehand, backhand, 5-hole, close your damn legs, pal. This was a special teams nightmare from the start, but look at this from Evgeny Malkin. He turns into Anakin Skywalker, just a two-hander slash right to the head. That is no bueno. You can't do that. They're already missing Sid, and he's probably going to catch a suspension for that. Malkin gets a major in Buffalo, never looks back. 5-1 beating, and they tie the Tampa Bay Lightning for the top spot in the East. Welcome to the Twilight Zone, ladies and gentlemen. I thought I'd never see the day. Meanwhile, the Atlantic took a beating. Tampa lost their 4th in a row. They look like they're still hungover from smashing beers on the beaches of Cabo during the Olympic break. Florida has completely waved the white flag on this season too, as Columbus steps up to beat them 4-2. The Jackets have been a whole other animal since they hired their new coach, Rick Bowness, and then they traded for Connor Garland too after the game, which is a fantastic ad for their final push to make it into the dance. They're just 1 point back of Boston, who is getting the sweaty glove, no love treatment from UC Saros. This has got to be SeatGeek save of the week right here. Saros on his caboose, no stick or anything, just flat out robs Lindholm point blank. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. How do you like that one, pal? Boston loses 6-3 and is starting to hear the footsteps of not only Columbus, but the Senators as well. Pick up a win against the Flames, and I'm telling you right now, if the Sens can get saves, which is rare for them, I do know, they are one of the best teams in the league. They could be a really sneaky pick for the playoffs to do damage if they find a way to squeak in. Finally, it's the Islanders versus the Kings, and this had the bread man written all over it. He gets his first as a King because the Islanders left him all alone with enough time to have dinner and a movie. He finished the night with 2 points as the Kings get a win that they desperately need to stay in the race here to end Thursday. Then Friday was the big day, the trade deadline. Bunch of GMs standing around for hours until the final minute, but let's go over the biggest ones and run a quick winners and losers, shall we? Let's start with the winners, who are the New York Islanders. They're knocking on the door of the playoffs, and they land Braden Shen in exchange for a first-round pick, a third, Jonathan Drouin, and Marcus Gildoff. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's a little bit of a steep price, but they just got the first overall pick in Schaefer, and he has transformed the team. The East seems as wide open as ever, so I like it. Next are the Ducks, and absolutely out of left field, they pick up the Caps' #1 defenseman in John Carlson. And what was a day that made Ovi severely depressed to hear the news. 18 years as a Capital, went to war and won a cup for the franchise as the #1 D-man. Gone. Shipped him off in the middle of the night like a dog. Didn't even tell him. Cold world, but the Caps see the writing writing on the wall, and the Ducks want to give this young group a boost to get some valuable playoff experience. Detroit had some tidy work as well, picking up the puck-moving D-man Justin Falk from the St. Louis Blues. They paid a first plus more, but I think Wings fans are just happy to be in this spot for once. The biggest winners, though, on the day were, of course, the Colorado Avalanche. Right at the buzzer, they pick up Nazem the Dream Kadri after picking up Nick Wall the other day. Before all this happened, this team is loaded up front. Kadri was a dog for the Avs when they won a cup, and he may be the very piece again to get Colorado into the promised land. It's no secret that the Avs power play stinks and makes you want to jump off a cliff seeing all that talent do nothing, but I bet Kadri steps in there and changes the dynamic of the PP with him in the bumper. Either way, the Avs made a big splash, which kind of leads us to the losers. The Wild and Stars are on a collision course to meet in round one and then eventually through the Avs, but they didn't do much to really move the needle, especially Minnesota, who didn't address their need at center. You can also add the Oilers in there for the teams who sat there scratching their ass all day doing nothing. Still no real tendy for McDavid. Out east, the Habs didn't do much. I thought they would do more despite having a young core ready to take the next step. And the Leafs, well, the Leafs lose at everything nowadays. They made trades for Bobby McMahon and Scotty Lawton, but the return was no bueno, and Leaf fans are not happy. Now, by the end of all that, we still had games to play on Friday, and it started with the Habs and Ducks. No John Carlson for Anaheim yet, but this was a barn burner as expected. The Habs are down 4-2 in the third, and just like they did in San Jose, they score 3 goals in under 5 minutes, including 2 from Cole Caulfield to take a 5-4 lead. But Chris Kreider, the PETA guy from Sausage Party himself, is still out here tormenting the Habs franchise ever since 2014. He ties the game with 40 seconds left for his 4th point of the night, and then Alex Killorn calls game in the shootout. Ducks fly together, baby, and they're now 8-0 in the shootout this season. And because the Golden Knights are playing like absolute ass right now and lost to Minnesota, Anaheim is now first in the Pacific. Then Detroit played Florida, and it was the Matt Tkachuk show. He gets a hattie in this game as the Panthers finally pull off a win here. It's too little too late, and all it's really doing is hurting their chances at Gavin McKenna, but I'm sure everyone's okay with that happening. Big news out of Chicago as well, too, as Captain Nick Foligno was sent to the Minnesota Wild for future considerations to join his brother. What the hell does that mean? No clue, but they basically shipped him off for a roll of clear tape, and now the attention shifts more on Connor Bedard as the future next captain of the Hawks. It has been tough sledding, though, especially because they lose tonight's toilet bowl 6-3 to the Vancouver Canucks. Anytime you lose to Vancouver, it's a tough night, so yikes on that part. Next is the Oilers versus Hurricanes, and the Oilers seem all over the place. The offense was the only thing humming, and they were held to 16 shots in this game. They still scored 3 because they're all cheat codes, but once again, not enough with their defense and goaltending. 2 empty netters at the end resulted in a Carolina 6-3 dub, and that's now 9 of their last 11 games where they've allowed 4+ goals. No bueno. Chasing them are the Sharks, who got St. Louis, and it was rumored that half of St. Louis would be out of town, especially Robbie Thomas. San Jose would have liked that because he steps up and cleans up the garbage for the OT winner as the Blues take it 3-2. And then finally, it is the Juggernauts. Avs versus Stars. Buckle up for this one. Only one of these teams will make it past the second round. Right away, Mackenzie Blackwood gets lost at sea. Oh my dear boy. He misplays the puck and ends up gifting the Stars an absolute freebie. This was a back and forth game all around. The Stars had a 3-1 lead. Avs came back. Dallas went up by 1 again until the final minute, and the Avs, with the tendy pulled, get a Nichushkin look from the slot, and he shaves the ear hair off of Ottinger. Oh my, what a missile. Tie game, and then the Avs abuse Ottinger further in the shootout. Poor guy needed floaties. He was swimming so bad in the crease because of Necas and Nichushkin. Pretty shootout goals. What a game as the Avs snap Dallas's 10-game winning streak to end a wild Friday night of hockey. Now we go into Saturday, day 1, without John Carlson for the Capitals. It's a new era and one that starts with an L. Boston has been incredible at home this season. They hold Washington to just 1 goal for their 12th straight win at home. Needed that with the Caps knocking on the door behind them. The Caps, though, may just completely falter down the stretch here after the Carlson trade, but we'll see. Next is our toilet bowl game of the night between the Rangers and the Devils. But anytime these two teams meet, there's always drama. And is there any hotter player in the world right now than Jack Hughes? The Golden Boy is the crown of USA hockey, and he has himself a game. First, check out this piss missile from the point. Frame that one on your fridge. He then follows that one up with a goal on the B-way and tops it all off with a hattie in the empty netter. Tells the crowd to throw those hats and get some USA chants going in in the process. When he's healthy and on his game, he's one of the best in the world, and we saw it firsthand in this one. I also can't believe we live in a world now where the Sabres are legitimate wagons. They win their 6th in a row against the Preds. No one saw it coming, but everyone's glad to see it anyways. Same as the Penguins, who get some news on Evgeny Malkin. He's got a 5-game suspension for attempting to chop down Dahlin's neck. The good news, though, is that Sidney Crosby is back on the ice practicing. The report is that he's a lot closer than anticipated. So that's great news for Penguins fans, but they're going to have to go into the Battle of Pennsylvania without Sid and Gino. This one goes to a shootout where Philly's got the best shootout weapon in the sport in Trevor Zegras. You can click on another video and come back, and this guy still won't be done his shootout attempt. His move takes about 15 years just to get to the net, but who cares, because the guy is virtually automatic as he's the most efficient shootout player in the world right now. Let's go to the Kings and Habs, where Juraj Slafkovsky was playing like he's got a Slovakian sweater on. He looked like a force in this game. 3-point night for him, including this slick Rick dish cross ice to Nick Suzuki for the game winner. Jakub Dobiš was also incredible too. He stopped 36 of 39, and that win gets them back in the top 3 in the Atlantic. Speaking of the Atlantic, it was the Leafs versus Lightning, and lost in all the noise of the trade deadline, Tampa actually traded for Corey Perry. So Perry comes back to Tampa, which all but guarantees that they're making it to the Cup final, only to lose. I'm sorry, but that is just the rule. It also guarantees that he's scoring against Toronto. He's Johnny on the spot and finishes. The 792-year-old Worm is still finding a way to score goals and help his hockey team win games. He's an absolute gamer. I love it. Tampa spanks Toronto, and Kucherov, sitting in his rocking chair with a smoke and a pancake, has a 4-assist night to reach 100 points on the season. This is a colossal failure of a season for Toronto, and it looks like it's only going to get worse. Now let's go to two teams who have been red hot lately in Columbus and Utah. Watch this slick Rick stuff from Logan Cooley. Forehand, backhand, roof gave Utah the 2-goal lead with 10 minutes left in the third. Then Columbus scored twice to tie it up, and then we got an old Gen Z line brawl. Everyone grabbed the guy. We were actually lucky enough to see a few fights in this one, and Damian Severson, after the brawl, tries to pump up the crowd and says, "Are you not entertained?" And remember that, because in OT, Cooley one time's at home and shushes the crowd, tells him to shut the hell up and go home, as Utah takes the 2 points and says, "Thank you very much." Also, how lucky are we? We get 2 toilet bowl games in one day. Our second one is the Canucks versus Jets, but you know what? Winnipeg isn't exactly out of this thing. They get some late heroics from Gabe Vilardi to tie the game with 5 minutes left, and then Josh Morrissey wins it in OT, meaning that they're just 5 points back from a playoff spot. Listen, if any team can get hot, it could be the reigning President Trophy champs, especially if Hellebuck locks in here. It would be an unbelievable story considering that they lost 11 games in a row at one point this season. Another team I'd want no part of if I made it in is Ottawa. They put up a touchdown against Seattle. They got to be near perfect, but if they get the goaltending, they are dangerous. Finally, in San Jose, it's the battle of a couple teenagers who are way too good for their age. Celebrini rifles his 32nd goal of the season to tie the game 1-1, and at the horn, both he and Schaefer start pushing each other around in a scrum. Like to see that, only for Schaefer to get the last laugh in OT. He sets up Horvat, who slices through the defense like a hot knife through butter and calls game, as the Islanders remain a perfect 9-0 in 3-on-3 overtime this season. Both teams are fighting for their playoff lives, so that is a big extra point for the Islanders. So, what did you think of Week 19? Who surprised you? Who pissed you off? Let us know in the comments down below. And if you want to see more in-depth breakdowns and recaps of the NHL season, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so that you don't miss a single thing.